My name is David Baker. I am a reader of poems and a writer of poems and a citizen of Ohio. I live in a little town called Granville, Ohio, and teach school there at Denison University. I'm a dad. I'm a 60-year-old. I'm a neighbor. I'm a lot of things. And a lover of poems, like I said. This is one of my very favorite poems. Depending on the day, though, my favorite changes. Sometimes it's a Whitman poem, sometimes it's a Plath poem. Today it's Emily Dickinson's poem, Because I Could Not Stop for Death. My personal connection to the poem is just an adoration. I love the poem. It means a lot of things to me in different ways. I think a lot about what it means to be a citizen of this country. And one of the rhythms in my head is the rhythm of this poem. It reminds me of a kind of American language and an American rhythm. You know that famous song that we sing, Amazing Grace. Amazing Grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. This is the same rhythm as the Dickinson poem. It's the same rhythm as so many of the Puritan hymnal songs. It's the same rhythm of so many patriotic songs. It's the sound, or one of the sounds, that Americans make when they are thinking of something important to them. And in this case, in the Dickinson poem, she's thinking of something important, as she often is, thinking about the next world, or this world, and an avenue from this world into the next world. Because I could not stop for death, he kindly stopped for me. The carriage held but just ourselves and immortality. We slowly drove, he knew no haste, and I had put away my labor and my leisure too for his civility. We passed the school where children strove at recess in the ring. We passed the fields of gazing grain. We passed the setting sun, or rather he passed us. The dews drew quivering and chill, for only gossamer my gown, my tippet only tulle. We paused before a house that seemed a swelling in the ground. The roof was scarcely visible, the cornice in the ground. Since then, 'tis centuries, and yet feels shorter than the day I first surmised the horses' heads were toward eternity. It's a death poem, I guess. One of the things that I love about this poem is that it's also a sex poem or a love poem. She's on a date. She's going on a carriage ride with some handsome guy and a chaperone, and they're riding through the town, and everybody's looking. The gazing grain is following them as they go to what almost looks like the marriage house. It's of course a poem about going to the grave, and she has imagined herself dead and on the hearse, and she's being accompanied to the grave, but they don't stop at the grave. They go right past that little house that's sort of shrunken or swollen in the ground, and they keep on going. One of the really cool things about this poem is an almost little invisible word at the very end. When she says, and yet feels shorter than the day I first surmised the horses' heads were toward eternity, that little invisible preposition is my favorite preposition in American literature. Toward eternity, not at eternity. We're never going to get there. It's just the horses and their ears are facing to the west as the sun is moving past them, and they'll always, always, always be on this journey to some other life. That in itself is eternity to her. A journey that never finishes. That little preposition, see, it's that kind of attention to those tiny little words that Dickinson is so great at. Another thing about tiny little words, look at this poem if you ever see it on the page or hear it again. Because I could not stop for death, he kindly stopped for me. The carriage about just ourselves and immortality. That completely weird rhyme between me and immortality. Tiny little concept pronoun, me, and that massive immortality. That tippy, weird rhyme. I love that about Dickinson. She also does that in the very last stanza, rhyming, I think, day and eternity. That doesn't even sound like it should rhyme. It's perfect. Those are some of the things I love about that poem. It helps me live day by day. It helps me think I'm living in this world and I'm living in another world. And at any moment, that magic, that carriage, that avenue, that doorway into the magical world is available all the time. It helps me live day by day. Isn't that a cool poem?